This is the Spurs Postcast, your instant game reaction for the San Antonio Spurs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, if you needed any more reason to believe that the San Antonio Spurs have arrived, I don't know what to tell you, because tonight they passed the ultimate test and they did it in the loudest and most impressive of fashions, defeating the Oklahoma City Thunder in the semifinals of the NBA Cup, and now have a date with the New York Knicks in the championship on Tuesday. Welcome into the Spurs Postcast right here on Locked On Spurs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one podcast network in all of the land. San Antonio, in my mind, their biggest win in half of a decade. Some would even say since 2014 tonight. 111-109, rallying past the Oklahoma City Thunder in Victor Wembanyama's return after missing nearly a month. He, of course, is NBA champion Devin Brown. My name's Casey Viera. We've been doing this all year long, and we've been setting benchmarks, and we've been moving goalposts, and we've been doing all these things to play devil's advocate to really wonder what the Spurs really were. Tonight was the ultimate benchmark. We could not have pushed the goalposts any further back than we did going into this, and they got Victor back tonight, and they shined in the brightest of spotlights and got the win.
Yeah, definitely. Casey and everybody, welcome to the show. Another great episode. Let's talk some Spurs basketball, Casey. I'm ready.
This is what you'll be talking about.
All right, so you know the footnotes on Oklahoma City, 24-1, 16-1, 16-game win streak entering the season, Wemby coming back. Those were the headlines. We knew that part. But what we did not know, what we found out about 15-ish, 20 minutes before the game started, was that Victor Wembanyama was not going to start this game. They brought Wemby off the bench, and we knew he was available, but we saw that he was coming off the bench. We're like, oh, okay, well, we'll see how it goes. Maybe that's what they need, that spark coming off the bench in the first. Well, they didn't play Victor in the first quarter and probably could have used him at that point because they started the game 0 of 12 from 3. Wemby did not see a second on the floor in the first quarter. Ultimately, they go down 31-20 after one. Victor gets his first minutes in a month. He checks in right at the start of the second, and that deficit promptly goes down to 4. He goes out after about 3.5 minutes of work, and what happens? The deficit balloons back up to 16, and the Spurs are looking hapless. The shots aren't falling. They're turning the basketball over, and you're thinking this is going to be an Oklahoma City runaway. Well, Victor checks back in with about 3 minutes to go, and the guy's down 16. And all of a sudden, things turn for the better. They go on a 13-0 run to close the half, get within 3 at the break, 49-46. Vic goes for plus 20 or a plus 20 in 7 minutes in the first half. They play even essentially in the third quarter, leading into a competitive fourth quarter, a 1-point game. SGA doing his thing, not letting this get out of hand as the Spurs would go by as many as 6 in the third, but some big-time defensive stands, some big-time shot making from Devin Vassell, De'Aaron Fox, Wemby, the go-ahead score that put them up by 1 with 2:32 remaining in a stretch that set off. They held Oklahoma City without a field goal from the 2:55 mark until 14 seconds. SGA hitting the layup after they exchanged free throws. All said and done, it leads to a 111-109 win. Victor's stat line is 22-9 to a plus 21 in 21 minutes of work. That's how you consolidate things into a minute, and I did not nearly do as good enough job as I should because there's a lot to talk about. So that's where I defer to you, my friend, because it was a lot, and we saw Victor back in his finest form tonight, even if it was in a brief fashion.
Yeah, so from the beginning, when you talk about him starting or not starting, no, you reward those guys that have been out there, and the fact that the group have been playing well. Did they get off to a good start? No, obviously not. But in the same token, boom, you get Victor out there, and he looked good. And the Spurs played well. Coming back from that deficit, and that's what they were fighting all night, and able to do that, right there in that second quarter. But you see the confidence, later in the game, and the guys that had been out there, and then like we had talked about, Casey, being able to add something like Victor to what it is that, these other guys that are playing well, it's a whole nother dynamic. So we were able to see that tonight. And, like you said, just, you know, from start to finish, there were so many things going on there. But in the end, the Spurs picked up, like you said, a big, big win. And we hadn't seen that kind of success for a while.
And I think it was really a microcosm of what the past month has been, because as we know, we've talked about plenty, 9-3 in the 12 games, essentially month that Victor has been out. And I don't want to say they look like they haven't skipped a beat, because it feels like they've been a different team, different kind of identity of sorts, but
Right.
they didn't skip a beat. And I thought that's what kind of played into the turning point again in my mind this evening, was them not skipping a beat and ultimately proving to be the difference.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
All right, so Spurs up by 1 at the 7:28 mark. Victor is on a minutes restriction in this game. The 20 to 24, I believe, was the number that they were trying to keep him towards. So he checks out with 7.5 minutes to go. They're up by 1. And you're at this point thinking, with this Oklahoma City team, this is obviously the elite. And you're just saying, guys, just hold on. Just hold on. Just hold down the fort. And for all intents and purposes, they did. Because Oklahoma City did turn that into a 3-point advantage at one point. But the Spurs get back ultimately to take a lead. A couple SGA free throws puts OKC up back by 1 before Victor checks back in at the 5-minute mark. So yes, the Spurs did technically lose that window, but they didn't lose the window, because that was, inevitably naturally the fear when you see Vic check out. You're like, I hope they can hold down the fort. And they did. And it was the usual suspects, as it's been. Clutch shot making from Fox. In my opinion, Devin Vassell played his best game as a pro tonight. He had 23 points. All of them felt like were just big, pivotal buckets. Fox, 22.
Right.
Stephon Castle, 22, 6 and 2 himself. Just in my opinion, that stretch right there just kind of spoke to how the past month has been. And they did it without Victor, and then they let him come back in after finding his legs, and he closed the door.
Yeah, definitely. Those other guys, I mean, and we've been, watching this the last month with him being out, and just these guys stepping up, shot after shot after shot. And, Victor's who he is, right? And he's going to command a lot of attention, but these other guys have played enough games to be familiar with what it is that they can do, to help the Spurs win ball games. That's what we saw tonight. And on the other hand, when you can, Casey, you'll love this, when you can add a guy like Victor, that's probably going to make you, better as well. So just great all-around performance. My hat's off is to everybody. And, like you said, adding Victor is just a bonus.
What do you think of the idea of bringing him off the bench tonight?
Well, like I said, those other guys have been out there. They've been playing well. Not a big deal. Just for the fact. Now, is it taking a chance? Well, of course, it's taking a chance. I mean, if we're doing this against your boy Jordan Poole and the Pelicans, that's different. But against this team, OKC. But at the end of the day, they pulled it off. They won, so we can look at it a whole different way. But not a big deal, just in the sense that the others have been playing well. The 3-point shot was lost, there. But they came back and actually shot it pretty decent. Actually outshot the Thunder. We were looking at it. The Thunder were 9 of 37 for the game.
9 of 37. And I guess if you're doing the math, the Spurs finished the game 13 of 42. So what's that? If you take out the first 0 for 12, that's 13 of 30. So
13 to 30. This is
almost
almost 50%. Yeah, absolutely. So you'll take that. You'll take that. The biggest thing is they won the rebounding battle overall. And so, they haven't done that against, some of these teams, but definitely won it tonight. And, like I said, I was going to say that earlier, but, big win.
I like the idea. of them bringing Victor off the bench.
Not for long.
Not for long. Well, I don't anticipate it to really happen.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it was cute against Oklahoma City, but I don't anticipate him coming off the bench against the Knicks. I don't do that. I look at it also from the lens that they're kind of playing with house money with something like this, is that they're going to have to think outside the box to beat Oklahoma City. Whether we're going to try to, for the first time, go with the 3-guard lineup with Fox, Harper, Castle, with something like that, which I don't think they did in any capacity. If they did, I didn't catch it. Whether they do something, I mean, bringing Victor off the bench probably was really thinking outside the box, probably stretching the limits of it. But I know that's more of a rotational kind of thing, and it evens itself out. But it's a gamble that they took, that Mitch took, the staff took, and it paid off because, again, you're playing with house money when you're facing a team that is riding a 16-game winning streak. It's 24-1 on the season.
Right.
At that point, at one point in the game, is up by 16 points anyway. So you're just saying, why the heck not? Let's just try it. And it worked. And it worked. It worked. And you got to give credit to the coaching staff because they did it exactly in that fashion. And it paid off. But now, go ahead. You have a thought, Bruin.
No. I'm listening.
Oh, okay. Good. Because I have a thought, Bruin. I'm trying to figure out where this team stands right now in the grand scheme of things, because I don't want to become a prisoner of the moment and I don't want to start jumping out the windows feeling good. But coming up on the other side of the break, I think it's important we have a real deep conversation now. What does this mean? Where do the Spurs stack up in the grand scheme of things? I have an idea. I don't know if it's along the same lines as Devin's idea, but I guess we'll find out on the other side of the break in the Spurs postcast right here on Locked On Spurs. But before we do all that, of course, I have to talk to you about some of our friends that drive this program. To which tonight we talk to you about ZocDoc. Guys, as we know, it's 2025, almost 2026. And those days of waiting for something to happen to become a full-blown emergency before you'd see the doctor, they're over. No more walking it off for however many months, pretending that weird shoulder stiffness is just sleeping wrong. You got to take your health seriously. And ZocDoc makes it easier above all else, because staying healthy is more than just hitting the gym, eating right. It's about actually getting things checked out when you're feeling off. Use the app. It makes scheduling easier. You look for your doctors in-house, in-network, book right on the app. Times are listed, same-day visits. Stop putting off your doctor's appointments and get the care that you need. Go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA. A message for you business owners that are hanging out with us on a Saturday night. New year, new systems, and this is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of running a business and think there's got to be a better way. And there is. Today's episode brought to you by Quo, spelled Quo, the smarter way to run your business. If you're ready to make your workday smoother, simpler, easier, and keep customers connected without the headaches, they make upgrading your system simple, easy, and all the fundamentals of what you want to do when it comes to running a business, do exactly that. So make this year where no opportunity, no customer slips away. Try Quo, Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/LockedOnNBA. That's QUO.com/LockedOnNBA with Quo. No missed calls, no missed customers. All right, Spurs postcast rolling on right here on Locked On Spurs. San Antonio winners tonight, 111-109 over the Oklahoma City Thunder, putting them in a spot now where, of course, in the immediacy, they're playing the New York Knicks on Tuesday for the right to lock up the NBA Cup. But let's think bigger picture, Devin. Let's think this wild Western Conference in the grand scheme of things. We said off the jump that this is a bar that we keep setting for them and a goalpost that we keep moving back. We need to see this before we put them in this conversation. We need to see that before we put them in that conversation. Are they a top 6 team? Are they a top 4 team? Do they belong in the same conversation with Oklahoma City? That said, where do you think they belong, or what we learned from tonight, where they belong when it comes to stacking up with the rest of the Western Conference?
Prisoner of the moment. They're went into LA, hostile environment, beat them. You turn around a couple days later, play OKC, who's 24-1. You beat them. Where do you go from here is the question that you're asking me. Casey, listen, if I could figure that out for you, you know, first of all, my founders' hoplites would be a whole lot better at the game of basketball.
Right.
There'd be a whole lot of teams better at the game of basketball. And what I mean by that is when they go to Golden State, when they play OKC again, what now you have OKC's attention. So when you go in Oklahoma City and you have to play them on their home floor, are you going to be ready for that task? You have some more dates with some teams that are a little bit behind you. Those are the games that I keep an eye on. So as far as if you want to answer right now, because I'm, you know me, I played for them. I'm not gonna, I'm not ready to go the Riverwalk or military drive right now, because of what we saw tonight. But I'll tell you what, they're definitely trending in the right direction, and that's about the answer you're gonna get out of me right now because, I'm not gonna, I have my pom poms. They're not within my reach right now, Casey.
I'm kind of in that same realm because I think there is still a gap between the Thunder and everybody else. Sizable, maybe. I don't know. It depends. It really depends. Again, I don't want to be prisoner of the moment, and obviously, we're
Right.
saying the gap is a lot thinner than it is. But at the end of the day, this is still a team that's on pace to win 70 games. And
Yes.
when we wake up in the morning, well, remember that. I think at the end of the day, what my takeaway is when it comes to this Spurs team is that this more so cements them in the conversation of the thick of everybody else with the West. Because I don't think there's a gap between them and Denver per se. I don't think there's a big gap between them and Houston. I look at a night like tonight and just seeing, health assumed, of course, there's a lot of things that were validated for me. Depth, the superstar, the coach looking really, really strong again. These are a lot of things that are validated. And then you put that in a scenario where they're playing big time basketball, playoff level intensity tonight, and they go out and they beat the best team in the league, the reigning champs.
Yeah.
Am I saying now that they're going to be in the West Finals? No. But I think what tonight did, it kind of validated to me that they belong in the conversation with everybody else. And it needs to be at least a conversation that come playoff time, it's not crazy to pick the Spurs, to beat the Rockets, to beat the Nuggets, to beat some of these teams. Do I think it's crazy to pick them to beat Oklahoma City after tonight in a 7-game series? Yeah, I do. I do think that. But I think for me, this locks it up right there in the meat of the West. This confirms what it is for me. What I think they are now is that they belong with them.
Well, my whole thing is it goes back to the front office and giving them credit where credit is due, right? For years, the Spurs have added players, but you've added players to a team that was already established.
Right.
San Antonio went through a rebuild. So now to go through that rebuild and come to this point, that's why I was explaining in our squad show why the importance of this game was so important tonight. And we went back and forth on what was going to happen, this and that. But the fact that we're sitting here talking about a victory over OKC after everything San Antonio's been through the last couple of years, this is phenomenal. Like, as one of the former players, I give my kudos to all these young guys because they played very well tonight as a unit. And for them to be in this position now is a whole lot better than us trying to claw and say, well, what can the Spurs do better, this and that. We've seen it in the last month, the type of basketball that they're playing, and to have those errors, here and there in the third quarter and still be able to get these victories, take it all day long, Casey.
Just think about this December. We talked about we were going to learn a lot about them. So they spent essentially 20 of 22 days on the road without, for the most part, Victor Wembanyama, without a good chunk of that time, without Stephon Castle. They play 9-3 during that stretch. They beat the Lakers. They beat the Thunder. If they beat the Knicks, they think about this. They play the Knicks twice this month. They play the Thunder 3 times this month.
Yeah.
Their schedule is loaded. And yeah, I'm aware we still have almost 3 weeks left in December and things can go sour. But all I know is what we have in front of me is that we set up a scenario where we as fans, as spectators, as viewers, like, we need to see this. And they've done it. And they've run the gauntlet. They haven't gotten through the gauntlet. You'd like to see them win the cup.
But it looks good right now, though.
But it looks good right now. It looks good right now. I think that's a good place to put a period on that sentence. Tuesday night's going to be fantastic because the Knicks look good in their own right. I mean, Brunson had 37 in 3 quarters. You know, I think we could probably go for another 30 minutes in ourselves, just that alone. And we know that this is why I'm glad they give us the extra time on the squad shows during the middle of the week, right?
Yeah.
Because for as much as we know Wemby gets up for playing Chet, Wemby gets up for playing the Knicks. And I think I think that the Chet thing is probably hatred. I think Wemby, the New York thing, that's probably motivation. Anyways.
Well, when you're going to Paris, I mean, a lot of people, you know, you got to go New York there.
Yeah. Hey, man, I don't want to, you know, we're up against the clock, but I don't want to hit too heavy on it. But I think that first game, that disaster class as a rookie had at MSG when they were chanting overrated at him.
Yeah.
That turned the switch on.
And I'm pretty sure that's a moment you'll never forget.
Nope. You get where we're going with this. Man's our player of the game tonight.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
And he did it in about as unique as fashion as possible, but 21-point performance, 9 boards, and 22-point performance, 9 boards, 2 blocks, 21 minutes off the bench. Probably the biggest game as a pro, an NBA pro, that is. What more do you have to add?
I'm going to add this. As a coach, Coach Mitch, he was like, well, I know we're going to win the bench battle tonight because I got a heavyweight coming off the bench. Little secret for all the coaches that didn't know that was going on out there. Congratulations, Wemby. Welcome back. I hope this propels San Antonio and yourself in the road where we need to go. Got the Knicks in the championship. Finish the job.
That's coming up Tuesday at 7:30. Tuesday, double check. Yeah, Tuesday at 7:30. Spurs, Knicks in a game of consequence. Sounds like 99 all over again.
Yep.
Next time you'll hang out with us, though, is Monday. Monday and Wednesday our squad shows are going to be this week because with the cup schedule moving everything around, we know that you guys don't watch us on Tuesdays and Thursdays when they're playing. We wouldn't either. So Monday, squad show, 9 o'clock. Tuesday, the postcast, as always, after Spurs and Knicks go final, right here on Locked On Spurs. Wednesday, the squad show to talk about all the action, again, for better or worse, before the rest of the week Spurs come back into town. Thursday, finally taking on the Washington Wizards. Tonight, though, is all that matters, and it was a big one for the franchise, reaching the NBA Cup finals, knocking off the Oklahoma City Thunder, the reigning champions, 111-109, in the return of Victor Wembanyama in the brightest of lights to really be a banner win for this young Spurs team, and now a matter of them trying to close the door coming up on Tuesday. We'll see. We'll talk to you before then, though. Again, Monday, come back for the Spurs squad show. Devin and I will catch our breath tomorrow, Sunday, and we'll be back in full force. So for my dear friend, Mr. NBA champion, Devin Brown, I'm Casey Viera. San Antonio winners tonight. Hey, you guys driving on military. I know you're celebrating, but be careful getting home.